Hello and welcome to another edition of World Cinema with John Bailey
and Richard Taggart.
Yes. We're going to be talking possibly at length about a few more foreign films which you may or may not have seen or heard of. We're just basically rambling on, giving our opinion of whether we like them or not. We're
doing sort of like a European / Russian sort of area of films tonight. We've got 4. Probably not many heard of, really.
Well,
it's a bit of a niche market for this sort of films.
I think there is
some of them, some of them not.
I think you may have heard of 1 or 2.
Yeah.
There's quite a few people I know have seen.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to start with that one?
Right. So we start with our first film. Yes. Right. So we start with Pan's Labyrinth. Mexican film, in fact, Spanish speaking, by Guillermo del Toro. I don't know if I've said that right. Known for Pacific Rim, Blade 2, others. Yes. And the film takes place in World War II Spain under the fascist regime, and it follows the story of a young girl who is living with her stepdad, who is an officer in the Spanish army, obviously very fascist, and it starts off almost like you think it's going to be a drama between
like
her,
period drama.
like her between her father and her pregnant mother, but
you couldn't really be more wrong, could you?
Yeah, she goes down, she finds a tree, I think, in a garden, and enters a fantasy world. It's almost like something out of an 80s film. Like it's got like that almost like a strange like glittery feel to it, like Labyrinth or Legend,
like Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. But
I've got some useless trivia.
Go on then, trivia or so.
Guillermo del Toro turned down the chance to direct Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe and Chronicles of Narnia to do Pan's Labyrinth.
But that's all it would have been, though. That's what I'm saying. I mean, Pan's Labyrinth is Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, you know, but from his perspective.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But yeah, so it's like a fantasy as this girl is going into this world where she finds out there's a prophecy that she is the princess of this world and will rule, will rule all this strange fantasy world. Well, at the same time, she has to go back to a life of stepfather, who she's scared of, and her mother, who is like trying to balance out the two, but she's also in trouble while she's pregnant with this child. But yeah, it's
special effects are interesting.
Yeah, it's quite dark, and people go like, I didn't particularly find the film scary. I mean, there is one bit where you go, oh, but there are some people who said that they can't watch it, and they're like,
but it has the same sort of like a feel as it.
Yeah, it's like a really like creepy
film. Yeah, but a lot of people watch the film and not be scared by it. Yet there can be other people who watch the film and are terrified by it. It's the same sort of feeling, isn't it?
It's not exactly the fact that something really bad happens. Well, actually, it does. I've just remembered a scene someone gets a face started in by a ball.
That was something nice.
It's not like a particularly gory film or loads of bad, nasty things happening. It's just that like
it's the feeling.
Yeah,
it's the feeling.
Yeah, it's really like creepy and and I forgot what I was going to say.
It's a good film.
Yes, it is. So there's this. She has to do these trials where she'll be accepted as the true princess or queen or whatever of this world, and so she's going back to see the faun, who's called Pan, and then she has to keep coming back to her family as like.
Is one of the trials that she can't eat the food on the table?
Yes.
That's one of the trials, isn't it? And
yeah,
fairies tell her not to do it.
Yeah, she has to go. I'm not sure what she has to do in that room. She has to get something.
Yeah,
but
basically, there's a huge table full of food, and the fact is that at that point they don't have very much food because of the fighting that's going on and things like that. So it's like a temptation thing. And at the end of the table is a guy. There's a thing sat in a chair with its eyes on a plate.
It hasn't even got eye sockets.
And it hasn't got eye sockets. And the fairies tell her not to eat the food. But what does she have? She has a grape. Yeah. And it wakes this thing up, and he puts his eyes into his hands, and puts his hands in front of his face, and it's not particularly scary, but it's a really creepy scene.
Yeah, that's like what a lot of people have just said. Like they see that and they couldn't really watch it. And it's like, well, that's probably it's the worst part of the film for scariness.
But it's worth checking out.
Yeah,
definitely.
And. Yeah, because there's also a story with there's resistance forces, and the officers who live at this live like in the area with them. They're trying to hunt them down, while at the same time she's sneaking off to this other world, and then the two stories come together at a bit of a climax, and it's like, what happened at the end?
We don't give it away, but it's definitely worth a watch. What would you give it out of 10?
It's been a while since I've seen it. I would have said 8, but I don't. It's not quite. It's not a massive
7.5.
I'd give it a solid 7. Yeah,
definitely.
But so yeah, it's let's say it's a Mexican film, and it's spoken entirely in Spanish. So you're gonna have to learn to read subtitles.
It's a thing that happens with pretty much all of our world cinema. Very, very few of the films that we watch and review in this section are in English in any way, shape or form, so subtitles is a standard with these.
Even if there are dubbed versions,
don't watch them.
I've never really watched a film.
Don't do the dub, you don't get the same feeling from it. Right, so I'm going to move on to a film that I'm going to say probably 90%, if not more, of our viewers and most people will not have seen. It's a film from Finland, entirely in Finnish, written, directed and starring Finnish, if I remember rightly. I could be wrong there, but I think I'm not. It's a film called Rare Export, A Christmas Tale. Sounds interesting. I saw a trailer for it. It's a 2010 film, so it's fairly recent. The trailer definitely sparked interest. It's a Christmas tale like you have never seen. So basically it starts off in this...
Well, like Muppets Christmas Carol?
No. It starts off, basically the film follows this kid who has some sort of Finnish, Christmas, tradition if you like. I'm not really big on how the Finnish celebrate Christmas, but I'm sure it's not like this.
Probably go rallying.
Yeah, probably. He finds a book and it's all about Father Christmas. But the Father Christmas that we know, who comes and gives presents and looks after good children and things like that, it's nothing to do with that. So basically he reads this book and it says that Father Christmas is this huge demon who doesn't like people very much. So it's sort of like brushed off and it's saying, well, that can't be true and all this sort of thing. Some Americans then come into the film and they have also heard the same rumour and they think that they've found out where this demon is, and it's in a mountain. So spin forward a little bit and they're trying to dig up this demon and nobody still really knows if it's true or not. But it turns out that it is. So this demon is not like Father Christmas style person sized. He is 40-50 feet tall with huge horns, looks like the classic view of Satan, and he's just this really big nasty demon that has previously been captured, put in this mountain and frozen to stop its treacherous run on humanity, and they, for whatever reason, release it. It's an interesting film, it's an interesting concept, and it's an interesting story. It's very well acted and there are points of extreme violence, but it's all in all a very, very good film. Something very unusual and definitely worth a watch. Not necessarily over Christmas time. There is another bit that I found a good twist that I didn't see it coming. So they extract Father Christmas, who's this big demon, they put him in this big factory and they're trying to thaw him out. And Santa's elves or helpers or whatever you want to call them are the classic view of what we see as Santa Claus, the old guy with the long beard, but they're like a zombified version that can't really think for themselves and are only there to protect the demon. So when they're trying to thaw it out and they're going to take it away and things like that, these, whatever they are, helpers or whatever, gnomes, are trying to stop it. All in all, they overcome the demon. I'll not go through how they do that, but it's worth a watch. There is a very interesting bit at the end, and I can't remember whether it's just before the end credits or just after the end credits, where they've overcome the demon, it's going to be no problem anymore, and they're left with all of these helpers, these Santa Clauses, and they're training them in a factory to be nice. Like your Christmas Santa Claus who you go to a grotto to see. So you've got all of these Santa Clauses lined up with toys and they're trying to give them to children and things, but they're not really cooperating, and it just sort of follows about 5 minutes, and it's a totally light-hearted bit of the film in this whole sci-fi horror, well, maybe not sci-fi, but definitely horror sort of film, and it's a change to the horror sort of genre, and it's quite a nice light ending without having a really happy ending. And then they box them up and ship them off, and it's quite good. Totally different, totally unusual. Again, probably I would say maybe 7.5, but definitely worth a watch. So yeah, if you've not seen it, which I don't think many people will have, check it out.
Yep. And now we're going to Russia. Yep. Well, more specifically, we're actually going to Afghanistan with Russia. The film Ninth Company came out, it was a few years ago now, it's a couple of years old. I do believe it's the highest grossing Russian film. I might be wrong on that. But it follows the Russian troops in the Russian-Afghanistan War of 89? Was it 89 it was set?
Yes.
Around that time.
I think so, something like that.
As, it follows these Russian soldiers. It's to get a quick idea of what sort of how it's sort of set out. It's a bit like Full Metal Jacket in that it starts off with them just joining up
in training,
and then it goes through the training, and then they're declared fit for duty, and then they go to Afghanistan.
Can I just jump in before you? Full Metal Jacket is a fantastic analogy for the way that this film works, because it's the same sort of setup, but in Full Metal Jacket there's a very psychological part of it, in the sense that the drill sergeant, who was actually a genuine drill sergeant, and he was put in instead of the actor that they'd cast because he was better.
He improvised a lot of his lines.
And he improvised a lot of his lines, but that's sort of besides the point. But it's very psychological in the sense that it's they take these soldiers and they break them and they build them, and then one of them kills themselves and so on. In Ninth Company, it's psychological, but in another way. These guys, these Russian guys, come from all different backgrounds. You've got one guy who married somebody and ran away. You've got another guy who was supposed to go to prison.
You've got the painter.
The painter who loves war because it's bare.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful, and so on, like things like that. And there's an awesome bit at the start where the guys are running after the criminal. And he goes in and he joins up and he's going to Afghan, and the police come in and they're going, we're taking him, and he's going, no you're not, they're the Afghan lot, you're not taking them. So that bit's quite cool, I like that bit. And then
it shows a lot of them, like near the start you see them, they have a bit of a fight, as they go, like they butt heads and that. And you see them, they start to mesh and they start to bond. And it's like a really good development of the characters, even before they've gone to war. And you see how even you've got like the drill sergeant who he seems like who's a nasty mental case and that.
He's got a big burn down the side of his face.
Even with him and with the other characters, you can see how they're fiercely proud of who they are and what they're doing.
There's nothing more that'll hold at that point apart from just before they go to Afghan, because their drill sergeant, who's previously been to Afghan, and I think he lost his whole platoon there, didn't he? He was on when he came back or something like that.
But
and all he wants to do in life is go back to Afghanistan. That's all he wants to do, and they deny him, and they say you can't go. and the big, nasty, heavy drill sergeant, he goes in a field,
Yeah,
cries.
he cries in a field
And
because he's left behind.
Wow, what a scene! I mean, it's awesome. And I'll tell you what, there's another scene when the basic training as well, where it's just, I don't know how they do it, but the Russians seem to get the war bit of that sort of thing a bit grittier than everybody else. And there's a bit where they're training to take out tanks, and they dig a trench.
Yeah, and they have to
And
lie down.
this guy, basically what they have to do is they have to lie under this trench, and it's Americans do it well as well. I mean, there's a lot of good American films where they produce it, but it just, when you watch it, it feels real, and it feels claustrophobic, and this tank is, it's nuts. And the guy who's in
afterwards.
no, I mean when the guy is in the trench underneath, when they run the tank over, and they all start laughing at him.
Yeah.
Because he's scared out of his wits, and he's pissed himself while he's on the ground.
And then the drill sergeant comes over.
Yeah,
And says,
it's just like, what you doing?
He's just done it.
Yeah.
Like, what?
What are you laughing at?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. But there is a funny bit as well in the basic training, when they're talking about the plastic explosives.
Yes.
Do you know what it is? I laughed so much at
yeah,
that
there's
bit.
basically there's a moment when they're being told about plastic explosives, and one of them takes plastic explosives and just makes a big cock. And so it's got bits of humour, and then they get to Afghanistan, and it's got.
Are you going to talk about?
It's got a
the
bit.
fly in.
It's got a bit of a, like, it's like a sort of, I don't know. It takes away some of the realism I felt with the film, where they fly in, and they're just meeting.
Yeah, the guy's going.
Yeah, the guys coming out who on the same plane.
They've like completed the tour.
Yeah, and one guy gives them an amulet, and he says, "Hey, you wear this. It's kept me alive all this time. You wear it for protection."
Yeah.
Gives it to this guy, gets on the plane, and the plane is shot down, and they all die.
I love that bit.
Then all the way through the film, even to the end, this character is he's protected by this amulet sort of, and that's the one thing I didn't like about it, because it seemed like it was the typical Hollywood thing, like was a coincidence or supernatural or whatever. And also, while it is very good and it's very emotional and gritty in the way that it ends, it did get some criticism because
it wasn't true to the story of the Ninth Company.
Yeah, because the Ninth Company didn't actually receive that bad of a heavier loss. So the real Ninth Company, while it did brilliant in the Russian box office, it's one of the biggest movies of all time, the original Ninth Company was sort of like, well, it doesn't make us look really good, because it looks like we got our asses kicked.
It's a funny thing, in the American sort of war films that you see, that again, I'm not going to deny the fact that they're very good, but it's like people die for the country, and it's very patriotic. Well, it's not patriotic, but it's like, hurrah for America sort of style. But when they do it in Russia, they like it to be right, because they are patriotic.
Well, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I haven't really explained that very well, but.
Well, at the end, there's a moment where they find out that, what was the point of them being there, really?
Yeah,
when
we're not holding this hill anymore. Yeah, there's a big scene about them holding this hill, and they go through everything to try and hold this hill, and it's just it's pointless. That's the whole point of that bit, that it is pointless. But how well is it acted, though?
Yeah, it
honestly,
is.
Wow.
You don't even have to understand the language or the inflections, the expressiveness, because you get it.
I think it's probably one of the films that I can watch without subtitles.
Yeah,
quite easily.
Even there's the scene. I think it's just before they ship out, when they all get the booze and that, and they're all smoking and all together. That scene, you do get the sense that they're bonded, and you can hear it in the voices, and it really does work.
What did you think about the scene? In fact, is it possibly the first time they see combat, where they go up onto the hill?
Strangely, are you thinking of Akhmet?
Yeah.
I was thinking about this today. I don't know where it came from, and it's so funny. The way that there's these two combatants on either side, and they know each other by name.
Like two groups, the Russians.
There's the Russians and the Afghans on on each have a hill, and they're just shouting, like, they know each other by name, and they're shouting insults at each other while they're in a gunfight.
And they do it at the same time every day, don't they?
Yeah, and it's just hilarious that they're just like, oh, it's you're still alive, what the fuck you're doing? It's brilliant.
Yeah, it is absolutely fantastic. I mean, you have to watch the subtitles for that, but
Yeah.
otherwise you wouldn't know what's going on. But it just feels real.
Yeah.
To me.
Like, the
And-
fact that, they're in a war zone, but, you know, they still have a bit of humour and a bit of laugh carry on, even with their enemies.
There's a bit also in the film that is, it's a tough bit of the film for me, because as with every film of this sort of sense, you have the guy who's very strong, the leader, you've got the guy who's intelligent, you've got the guys and blah blah blah, and you always have the younger one, don't you?
Yeah.
I think he's called, what's his name? I had it there just a second. Stars or something? Stas. He's the younger one of the group, and they all look after him, in a sense. And there's a point where basically they're swapping food and things with like a certain amount of the Afghans and the forces and things like that. And he needs matches, doesn't he?
Oh,
He asks
someone
them
needs
for
matches.
So he says, "Go and get me matches, like me tabs or whatever it is."
Yes,
And he-
that's a port, isn't it?
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
ends up going into
The-
this little town, the painter.
Yeah.
Going into this little Afghan town, and they're talking about what is it, haram? It basically means that it's forbidden to spill blood of their enemies in their own town and things like that. And the way that the emotion of it is very, very good. But he goes into this town and it's like all the way through this scene, you don't, like, are they going to kill him? Are they not? Because they are enemies, but they're on their own town. So are they going to kill him? Are they not going to kill him? And he goes into this guy's house, and you're thinking at any moment they're going to butcher this guy.
Because all that it is just like, yeah, I've got matches. Come to my house. I'll give you some matches. You just sit down here and wait.
And you guarantee it.
The sweat is pouring off this guy as he's waiting.
It's just an unbelievably filmed bit. And then he gets his matches, and he leaves. And does he get? Is it then that he gets killed?
No.
Or is it later?
No,
is it another village
that's right at the end.
where the kid shoots him?
No, that's a different character.
Oh, is it? Who am I thinking of then?
I don't know, because
Well, there's a bit anyway where it basically what you see is they go into a town which again is relatively deserted, and you can see kids running around, and there's one of the Russian soldiers who's walking along with his weapon, and he turns around and this kid's got an AK, and he's like really young kid, and he shoots him, and the rest of the Russians come after him, and you know they take him away, and this kid, the sub-Russian soldier dies in his arms. I'm sure it is Stas who dies, you know.
it might be, but it's.
And it's just,
We're going to have to watch the film now.
it's just an
No
incredible
option.
scene, and they flatten the town, and there's no other way for it. But it's a good film,
Yeah,
very good film. What would you give it?
I'd give it a 9.
Yeah, I would as well. I think so.
Not much thought about it.
No.
9 for Ninth Company.
Yeah, I think that's probably the highest rated of the films that we're going to see today. I'm going to stick with Russia.
I think some people may have heard of this. I do remember seeing it in shops and DVDs and things like that when it came out.
A film that I originally read the book before I saw the film and was very confused. I have to be honest. It's a Russian film, very well translated book, but the actual story itself is a little bit complex. It's a film called Night Watch, still on Ninth Company there. Yeah, it's a film called Night Watch, which is horror sci-fi in a sort of genre that you've never really seen before. It's got zombies, it's got vampires, but they're basically, the way that they run it is you've got the people of the day and the people of the night, and you've got the Night Watch, who are the force that police the people of the day, and you've got the Day Watch, which are the people who
Is that the other
police.
way around?
No, they police the opposite.
Yeah, so Night Watch are the people of the day who watch the night.
Yes, that's right. Sorry, yeah, they watch the opposite side and they police them.
The goodies
Mhm.
of the day watch the night.
Yeah,
And the
they're
baddies,
called the Night Watch.
or the baddies of
Uh-huh.
the night watch the day.
And it's a time. I mean, it's fun. It's funny the way that they filmed it, because there's a point where one of the guys called what's his name? Starts with an A, doesn't it?
Cannot remember the names.
Alexei or something like that. Anyway, he's one of the good guys. Now we'll come on to that in a second, but he's one of the good guys, and he's this vampire's killed a human during the day. One of the like the people that he can't, so he has to go after them. And he's got this torch, which if he shines it, you can see the people of the night. And he also has a mirror, and you can see them in the mirror. And it ends up because you can't see them, he gets thrown into this building, and he breaks the mirror, and he ends up holding this bit of mirror next to his eye.
What's it called? Is it the grey or something?
Yeah.
It's almost like when they go invisible, they can. It's almost like they're in another dimension.
Yeah.
Because they say a step out of the dark or something.
Yeah.
And you can only see them when they're like this in a mirror.
Yeah, and he's got this bit of mirror, this broken shard of mirror next to his face, and he's looking at the mirror, and the way that it's filmed is incredible.
Yeah.
And he's looking for this guy, and every time he turns him, you just get flicks of him, and it's very well
This
filmed.
guy's attacking him with a pair of barber scissors.
Yeah.
Little stabs here and there.
And it's quite graphic. And you've got, if I remember rightly now, I was originally told that this was the lowest budget sci-fi horror film that Rush had ever created, and I think they would give him $10,000 to make this film. Now, I think, if I remember rightly, it was something that came out when they released the film, and it wasn't true. I will look into that, but that's what I was told when it first came out, and it did very well at the box office. The main guy, the good guy, well, as it's Russia, it's not quite as cut and dry as that.
It's very grey. Everyone's grey. Like early on, you see him, and then he's
a normal guy at the start.
And then he's talking to a guy from the other side.
It's before that, even before that. At the start.
Yeah. But I'm just talking about one time where he goes to get some blood.
Oh yeah.
He goes to his neighbour. Who was also like a vampire from the bad side.
Yeah.
And he just gives him some blood.
Yeah, and he drinks this blood out of a big bottle. It sounds a bit gruesome, but it's interestingly shot, and it's very good. So the main guy, I'll give you a little bit of backstory on that. Right at the start of the film, he's just a normal guy. He's a Russian guy who has fallen in love. Did he even get married?
I'm not sure.
Can't remember. Anyway, he's fallen in love with this woman, and she's
pregnant,
and she runs off and leaves him. And you see her on this very fancy yacht with this guy who's obviously got a lot of money. And your main guy is not pleased by this. He's heartbroken, and somehow he comes to know of this sort of witch doctor.
Yeah, he goes to a witch.
Yeah, and she says, right, well, what we can do is we can abort the child with, like, you've got items and blood, and we'll mix this together, and you drink it out of this thing, vodka, and it'll abort the child. But when you do it, I've got to clap my hands, and when I've clapped, that's it, it's done. But you don't back out. When you do it, you do it. So he's like, yeah, okay, we'll do this. They set it all up. He drinks the vodka, and then he changes his mind, doesn't he? So it gets sort of half done, and then the Night Watch come in and try and stop it, and your main guy stood there going, what's going on? And there's stuff's happening, and he can't see it, but she's unable. She can't clap her hands, and he sort of flicks, and you can see it. And there's two people holding this woman's hands back, and there's like oil as well, isn't it? She drops oil to try and get her hands free, and it's really well shot. But it turns out that the abortion doesn't happen, and that's the crux of the story. His kid, because of what's actually happened, becomes part of a prophecy, and eventually will destroy the world. That's the prophecy. The film itself is a first film of a trilogy, and the other two are called The Night Watch and The Day Watch.
No, The Day Watch and
The Night Watch, The Day Watch, and The Twilight Watch. That's the three. The three books are very good, but kind of difficult to keep up with at times.
Yeah, I mean, even just with the film, I mean, you've got shapeshifters. You've got these people going around in nitrous-powered school buses.
That's a bit strange.
You've got the strange thing with the funnel.
Yeah, well, in part of it, you've got a woman who attracts.
There's the guy. Well, he's a succubus type thing.
It's got a lot of different things in there.
I can't remember what that guy's supposed to be doing. He has to seduce that woman for some reason. And he's about to get married as well, so he's not really into it.
It's quite complex, but at the same time, it draws on a lot of myth and legend in the different sort of fantasy and horror genres. Definitely worth a watch, and I would definitely give it an 8. It's not for everybody, I will have to admit, and the Russian itself is very quick. So you really have to be into the film, and it's not a film you can put on in the background and sort of pick up.
You have to watch it. You have to give it your full attention.
Give it a watch and let us know what you think, because I would really be interested to know what you think of all of the films that we've brought up tonight. We've had some awesome films, we really have. As with every film that we do, and give us a like if you like the film, give us a message or a comment to let us know what you thought of the films that we reviewed, and if you have any opinions on them yourself. On the YouTube page, please give us a follow on that as well. Leave us a comment, leave us a like. You guys doing that can help us make more videos. So
yeah, just give us an idea of where to go from here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's it for another World Cinema. We will be back with another episode of this shortly.
I think we've got a nice enough list to go through. But yeah, we'd appreciate some input, and see you next time.